So I'm the last speaker. I'm Apostolos Lefopoulos. Our contribution with Thanasis Epitidios, who's here, is my PhD researcher, is about hybrid nature and audiogenesis in sound art. So I'm not going to be talking too much about it because we have an installation downstairs, which is an artistic work of multi-channel diffusion creation. So you'll be able to see that afterwards in practice. So what I'm going to say here is that things that are not visible in the installation, or rather not audible, you cannot hear them. So what is actually a bit behind that? So what we do is actually a natural ecosystem installation. I call it like that, and it involves basic things like what you see down there, like soundscape composition, like nature, acoustic ecology, and procedural audio. These are, of course, things that have to do with sound. So we're sound artists that create sound and sound environments which are related to nature. One version of this installation you can see in the photo from our last festival, which was an outdoor space and creating some elements of nature. So that was kind of in the summer, but we created storms and rain so as to give a different environment within an actual environment. So this is actually a flexible installation because it involves the actual space. We haven't seen it yet, we haven't heard it yet here, and we're anxious to see how it goes afterwards. So we go together to see that. So a bit of the background in a more scientific way. This involves acoustic ecology and the soundscape definition, which is from Barry Truax, half a century now. A soundscape is considered the sum of sounds that define a space, even if these sounds are actually created, are actually recorded or created. So we actually do, here what we do is a combination of synthetic sounds and natural sounds. That's why we call it hybrid. Other things that are related to what is behind what you'll hear is field recording and audio capturing research, spectromorphology and sound shapes, how to explain the sound, how to analyze the sound scientifically, sonic analysis, narrative and abstract sound, if we recognize what we hear or if we are free to imagine whatever we want. Procedural audio, which Thanasis is more expert, and his PhD is on that, how to connect the sound of an artistic sound with technology and the procedures needed to create. Sound synthesis and mixing, real-time audio processing, and spatialization, most important, the sound diffusion. That's why we have many speakers around us, is the action to actually create space. So we create the sound, but then we have to project it within a space in order to create a new environment. Of course, HAL, Hub of Art Laboratory Research Program, gives us some funding and some equipment, very important for our work, and we're very thankful to the department and to the Ministry of Education and of course to the European Union for that. So, methodology. Try to say a bit, very brief things, because we do many things, as you know, in order to create. We do many experiments. But I would say that I fall within, as an Apostolos, I fall within the A category, and Thanasis, my colleague, is B. Very briefly. Okay, we both do both things. What is A? A is a more classical approach to creating a sound from recording. Where we go, we record something, we take a snapshot, an oral shot of nature, and then we mix and we do some processes on the computer, digital stuff, and we store in a fixed medium, and then we reproduce in a theater, in an installation, whenever possible, wherever possible. So this is like a classical approach to sound, which involves a lot of audio processing, audio files, etc. So B, the other method, is kind of the same. We visit nature, we record it, and but then we have the technology to modelize it and synthesize it from scratch. So what we hear in this case is not recorded sound, but it's recreated sound. In both cases, we approach the notion of mimesis. We imitate the sound. Not in a bad way, because mimesis, you know, has also bad idea. But okay, mimesis in a good way. We find nature or any other recorded source as a guide for creation, as an inspirational space, an inspirational source. Okay, the result is always soundscape composition. In our case, we create soundscapes, we create new soundscapes, new spaces of sound, new sound environments, which again in our research can be categorized in different categories, like real like, they look like, they sound like nature, or abstract, they don't sound like nature, but for a magical reason, they remind us of a soundscape, of a space of sound, and hybrid or ambiguous. Putting this category here because I'd like to highlight a bit the word hybrid, what we mean by hybrid. We all know this word. It means a bit of that, a bit of the other thing. So elsewhere in the paper, I define hybrid down the right through a system of perception for sound models, real-like, abstract, and hybrid. In this case, a hybrid soundscape, natural soundscape, is the one that combines unreal sounds into a real space. Or the opposite, like real sounds, recognizable, there's a chicken, there is a rooster, there is something we recognize, we know, but the space is so awkward, it's so strange, it's so imaginary. Or some levels of combinations between the two. In this case, hybrid is any combination of this. It's hybrid space. Okay, we might have, for example, the sound of the sea, and we might think, okay, we're at the beach now, but we hear a strange musical background, something like we hear in movies, for example. This is hybrid, it's not real. Actually, nothing is real, but this is a very philosophical discussion because everything is real. Again, sound is real. So I'm not going to get very deep into that. We can think of that afterwards. So we are actually, in this installation, we are combining two works. One is my contribution, is the work Aquarius, which is about the water casus belli, is about climate change, and it is made from recordings I made from my home in Corfu, where lately we have all these phenomena with strong rain and cataclysms and catastrophes and whatever. And it's like, I felt like water is in revenge. On the other hand, we have iNature by Thanasis, which is a system of digitally creating nature. So in the first case, in my work, I worked in the classic A method where I recorded the sounds and I followed my old school style procedures, and Thanasis, the younger generation, followed the other approach. So we tried to combine that works in order to see how it works, and it actually creates a hybrid installation. So in this case, hybrid means the combination of two different approaches of compositional procedures. The output can be highlighted as music, as you can see there, but not any music, but electroacoustic music that has a lot of soundscape composition elements. Or if you don't hear it as music, definitely it's sound art, it's sonic art. Okay, So what you're going to see is a system of 8 speakers around the space, and then the space becomes something different. Now, let's talk a little bit about sound models, what we mean by the word model. In order to define a model for a sound, we need to analyze it in its special characteristics. That's the idea of a model. This analysis can be, in one hand, subjective, what we think, and objective, what the machine thinks. In the first case, we have to deal with aesthetics, with subjective criteria. We say a deep sound. How deep? In our imagination, we cannot measure that. Okay. Or a vast space. How big is it? And in the second case, we actually measure the stuff. We need a different system of analysis. And then we have automated systems that we analyze the sound. And then, of course, we kind of define a persistent, high-frequency, narrow, energetic sound, like the chirp of a bird. It needs both. Let's hear that again. So this is a very... It doesn't stop. This is a very common bird, found in Europe and Asia as, how do you pronounce it? Safish, okay? So, we just heard its sound. It's definitely a bird, like a recorded bird. But no, it isn't. It is this patchwork of codes and modulators and sound generators. This is a synthetic bird. It's not a real one, not a bird. It's a sound generator. Well, quite a simple patch, but we have here a video to explain what is behind. If you can see. Quite different. So what you see here and what you hear here is the actual, I would say, the digital DNA of the bird. It is the code that defines how it's going to be heard. So what Thanasis did here is to actually visit nature, record this bird, and then listen to it at the studio, and made this morphological analysis. The bird is too fast, and then I don't know how you managed to create, to define these 5 different parts. So it's a morphological analysis. This has to be done by the ear. We have to listen to it aesthetically, and then, of course, we have to measure. Say, okay, this is a persistent high-frequency area that we hear, but which exact frequency do we hear? Then we need the machine. We need an FFT analysis, sonogram analysis, an objective analysis with numbers to define which exactly frequency is playing and how fast exactly it's playing. But why to do that? In order to reproduce it. So in order to create a model which again says to another machine, like pure data, okay, not machine, but a coding system, to give all the orders needed to recreate this sound. We did that with pure data, okay, we could do it with different system, but that's the system Thanasis chose so far. And another sound, very common as well, and the same thing, another bird that we recognize, black phoebe, and again, this is not a real sound, it's a generated sound. In this case, we have, well, showing this video to demonstrate that in this case, we have again patchwork, but it is in multiple layers. So what you see on the left is what is behind what you see on the right. Okay. So on the right, am I saying it quite right? Because you know better, but on the right we have the foreground of the layers, and on the left we have patchworks behind, many layers. Imagine that there are like many layers like that behind. It's much work, it's not like this. And in the frontal layer, we have this. This is an application that we developed, that Thanasis actually made. It's the iNature application. So actually, iNature is not only an artistic work, but is a technological application that has an interface like this, which even a child can play, can move the faders, can move the buttons, produce sounds, to alter the sounds. So it's an interactive system where we actually can play and produce all these sounds. And now I mentioned the bird, but we also have the sound of rain, we have the sound of wind, we have the sound of loud thunder, water, etc. So what this actually does is that involves these kinds of procedures: additive synthesis, subtractive synthesis, frequency modulation, amplitude modulation, ring modulation, and wavetable synthesis. Simple stuff we use in composition, classical audio processes, but in a quite modern way. Also, what it does is involves an algorithm that we call it a soundscape algorithm, because it's an algorithm made to create soundscapes, which has a system of rules, which has unique sequences of sounds, and or it can have random access to sources. For example, a bird appears now, but it will appear randomly in 1 minute again. Or we can set the amount of randomness or not. So, more things that it does is that it has actions, certain actions like to change the time of appearance. How much are we going to stay under the rain? Do we want to be half an hour raining, or it's too much? So we decide, and how long is it going to take before the rain goes away and the sun is coming again? So also it selects the natural source we want to hear, activate or deactivate some of the models, and the most important for me is spatialization. It defines the way it's going to be within the circle of speakers. It's going to appear automatically, manually, activating the source, or how the soundscapes are going to appear one after the other within the installation. So far, this system does these things, but of course we can do more, and we're researching towards that. The benefits we have so far is that, first of all, it's research in new creative methods. Well, pure data in this kind of procedural audio is not quite new. Okay, so we're not saying that this is state-of-the-art technology, whatever, but the idea, the creative idea behind is always fresh. So we are satisfied, it satisfies a bit our artistic curiosity. We're curious to see what happens, what creates. So we are curious to create more models and have a database of sounds that we can recreate in this world. It's definitely a flexible system because we can define all these parameters, and it also very important that it's a live system. We can create sound live. We don't need to store it anywhere. It's coded, so it's created in real time. So, okay, there's an ideological interest for me there because the sound is created at situ, even if it's programmed to be. So it's quite a smart system. It has also interactivity potential, which is also important. We can go and play with the sound at the same time of creation, or we can give directions how it's going to change in the near future. So these are very important tools for me, very important elements, and we need to research more on that. And finally, some applications that actually take place so far and some future ideas. And would be glad to discuss with you any ideas that you may come up when you listen to it. So, iNatural, as I said so far, is a nice compositional tool for us. It can be, it can work as an audio plugin within a commercial mixing station like Reaper, like Cubase, like any commercial mixing program. It can stand alone as an installation audio generator for an installation system, like the one we have down there. It can serve for environmental learning, because, for example, we can invite children or adults to an environmental seminar, and we don't have to go and search for the sounds all over the planet. But if we have the models, we can recreate the sounds at this very moment. And it's very useful for any expedition and navigation system. So a future application would like to go into and collaborate with our gamification friends here is that this can be as part of a gaming engine, because it's already an audio engine, which is code, it's data, and it can go within Unity, for example, or within another game engine, and can work to produce sound while we play a game, a video game, or while we have a VR system and turn our heads and spatialize the sound. So this engine can actually take the role of spatialization design the sound within this virtual gaming environment. So last but not least is that maybe in the distant future we aim to this to serve as an artificial intelligent system tool, which, as frightening as it might sound, will have its own choices, be more smart. But okay, it's finished. I just finished. So just finished, and thank you so much. Some bibliography we're researching, and this is the end. If you have questions